Canadian-born Joan Palfreyman was admitted on February the 14th, 1969, followed by Jane Matthews on June the 6th, 1969.
My father said no daughter of mine's going to do law, and so I spent the next 2.5 years persuading my father in various ways that I should do law because, of course, he was going to have to pay for it. And at the end, he finally said, all right. He said, if you were a boy, I would have happily put you through both arts and law. As it is, the whole thing is going to be a complete waste of time. But if you insist you can do law, just straight law, but you'll undoubtedly go off and get married and it'll all be wasted afterwards. He was a bit embarrassed when I reminded him of that many years later after I'd gone on the bench. I had to make a decision very early in the piece, and did, to decline to do family law work. And it was really a choice between do family law or starvation. So I chose starvation. And it really was very difficult indeed for quite a number of periods, but I've sure never regretted it.
So how did you keep body and soul together?
I ended up doing quite a lot of legal aid work. That was the one field where as a woman you could get it. And through this ended up doing criminal trials, quite a lot of criminal work. And that was a really positive thing. That set the direction really for a lot of the rest of my career. The magistrates were sometimes pretty dismissive. Other barristers, by and large, once they got to know me, they were fine. I had some problems in the earlier days with a few of them who just didn't want women around.
A bit like Monty Python, are there any women here?
Something like that, yeah. I had a very amusing experience. The very first time I appeared in the Court of Criminal Appeal, it was presided over by the Chief Justice of the day. And it may be that it was, I don't know whether I was the first woman to appear before the court. It's unlikely, although remotely possible. Anyway, I had an unlosable case. It was a severity appeal, and through some quirk, you only realised it when you went behind and did calculations. The sentencing judge had actually sentenced my client to more than the statutory maximum. So I had to win. And I got to my feet, and the Chief Justice took over, and he said, well, Miss Matthews, you'd argue such and such, and from that you'd... So he presented to me the whole of my case, and I just stood there saying, yes, Your Honour, yes, Your Honour. At the end of it, and I swear this is true, he sort of turned around and discussed things with his with his colleagues, and then he turned to me and he said, well, Miss Matthews, your eloquence has persuaded us, and he proceeded to find in favour of his own arguments.
Jane Matthews went on to be the first woman appointed to full judicial office in New South Wales. She served as District Court Judge between 1980 and 1987 before being appointed to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. With no female colleagues on the District Court, she also spent the best part of 7 years as the state's only female Supreme Court Judge. She was appointed a Federal Court Judge in 1994 and served on that court until 2001, and was President of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal between 1994 and 1999.
Everything was just beginning to turn around. Everybody was talking women's rights, equal pay, all that sort of thing. So, and I became very involved in that, giving speeches and doing things all the time. So that is probably the only reason that there are photographs of me, because the Courier Mail used to follow me around. You know, there was one very early in the piece I can remember appearing in the Magistrates Court. Graham Bell, who was a few years senior to me and became a family law judge later, Graham appeared against me and told me the story that he said, I walked in there and I saw you and I thought, this pretty little thing. And then he said, you opened your mouth, you bitch.
Nada Haxton moved to Sydney with her family and was admitted to the New South Wales Bar in 1971.
I'm round in Frederick Jordan Chambers, and Nada Haxton has come down from Queensland, and those black robes are very forgiving, and I'm very pregnant. And Nada said to me, when are you going to tell me something? And I said, And she said, when are you going to tell me you're pregnant? And I said, well, I wasn't proposing to. I said, no one has noticed. She said, well, I've noticed. And she said, haven't you noticed me?
Nada Haxton did devilling work for various counsel, and during her years of practice, an increasing amount of lecturing, law reporting and editing.
Somewhere in that period, I also was asked to edit the local government reports for all states except New South Wales, so that was for the whole of Australia. And I think that was in recognition of the fact that I knew a broader range of law than most people probably did. And by that stage, I'd become totally enamoured of law reporting, loved what I was doing, and had become quite involved with not only law reporting and the Consultative Council of Australian Law Reporting Bodies, but which started in 1983, but with judgment writing and being asked to go and talk to the judges on occasions.
Did you aspire to being the silk?
I applied 3 times and was always knocked back, although I had assurances from people that they would support it and see it through. And I know that the Court of Appeal judges fully supported it, but because I wasn't running around in being seen in court, it's not on the bar agenda here, and I noticed it doesn't appear to be. The editors of the English law reports are accredited with silk because they're editors of law reports. Yes, it's something that the profession here might like to take a look at.